Are you looking to use LED lights in your live streams? Maybe you want to use colored lights, warm lights, pure lights. On this episode, we're going to be talking about the best LED lights for streaming. We're going to also share some ideas on how you can use LED lights in your live streams beyond just, hey, I turned them on. So I'm going to go ahead and come on and say a quick hello. By the way, for those of you who are watching us live, you can go to launch.live/EP106 and you can check out all the items we're talking about over on Amazon. So launcher.live/EP106. That'll get you over to the live stream. Now, a couple other things. By the way, sorry, I didn't start that one off right. Actually, I forgot to actually start the recording. So I'm just gonna do my quick intro, and that was the fact that yeah, if you're watching us live, you can go to launch.live/EP106. Today, we're going to be talking about the best LED lights to use in your live streams, whether that's colored lights. We're going to talk about using warm lights, using pure lights. Again, that more refers to the color of the LED light. We're also going to talk about some different ways that you might be able to use LED lights in your live streams, as I mentioned, and just turning them on. Because a lot of people, they just set them up, they turn them on, and then they leave them. And you got to do a lot more than that, actually. So with that, we're going to kick things off, start talking about LED lights. I'm going to go and bring on Marco Novo. Marco Novo and I, we do these live streams just about every week, and we're going to talk about lighting here. So, Marco, it's great seeing you. How you doing?
Hello. It's so good to be here again. I'm doing good, and you?
Good, man. Pretty good.
Perfect.
So, yeah, this is going to be a fun topic, by the way, today. I know. So, we're going to talk about obviously LED lights. A lot of people, there's lots of lights people can buy, right? And so, we're going to talk about LED lights. We're going to talk about those strip lights, kind of like the little purple ones that I have behind me. So, obviously, we're going to talk about the best LED lights for streaming. So, Marco, let's start off by telling people like, what are LED lights?
Okay. LED lights, one of the things I like about them is that they last longer.
Okay.
Okay. You have more control over the LED lights. And when we talk about mostly this kind of content creation lights, we have more control over them. Also, we can kind of play a little bit around with the colors about the brightness, for instance, the color temperature as well. If they are RGB, you can have gazillions of different tones of colors. Okay. And also they are, and we, by these days, we are talking about the sustainability, which is also important. They don't spend much energy like the usual lights. Okay. And I love how they look, and also how I can play around and set them in different ways to adjust to the mood of the live and my own mood. So this is how they, I'm not a tech guy. I don't know how they really actually work, the difference, but I know how they look different, and I think it's why you want to use them, or you may want to use them, because it's about the look and now as much as they work. Okay, so this is my 2 cents.
Yeah, sure, man. No, and here's the thing. I mean, a lot of people there's lots of types of lights that people can use. They can use like I like how you mentioned the low power aspect of LED lights. That's what a lot of people use them for because they do not. Here's the thing: they don't emit a lot of heat. That's I think partly one thing that's really nice. But it also they don't actually consume a lot of power either. And obviously, I mean, there's probably some health effects to it too. Like if you're in front of like fluorescent lights there maybe there's some health effects there. I'm not entirely sure on
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
but
absolutely.
again, LED lights. So the great thing is they do like they also make it where you don't always just have to get a solid white light, for example. You can actually do some pretty cool things with them. So fantastic. Okay, so that's what LED lights are. So how about this? Are LED lights good for streaming, by the way?
Well, I think they are because I'm using them for a while.
Okay. Okay.
So I think they are, as I mentioned, and this is something that we should have in mind. Sometimes the your mood it's different. For instance, if you have different cameras and depending in the amount of settings that you can manage, you can make
Uh-huh.
some work as well with the lights. Okay, mainly with USB cameras because you don't have that much control over the camera, so you
Okay.
can play around also with lights. Okay, also for instance, if you want to use natural light, you can kind of balance between the artificial lights and the sunlights as well. But the thing is, in my opinion, yes, you should use LED lights because they will give you lots of options. For instance, before I had two soft boxes, and if I
Okay.
wanted to change something, I need to stay. I needed to stand and to go and adjust. Right now, I'm sitting on my desk, and if I want, I can adjust the lights, which is
Yeah.
for me, it's really nice.
Excellent point. Yeah. So, okay. So, and I like the fact that you just talked about, with LED lights, um, you compare them to soft boxes. For those of you who don't, do you happen to, I don't know, do you happen to have your soft boxes up still or no?
Yes, they are here.
Do
Let
you have
me.
can you kind of put a camera
If
on
you,
that or no?
yes, just yes, 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 yes. Let
So
me.
what we're going to do real quick, by the way, if you're listening, and you want to watch, just go to launcher.live/EP106.
Okay,
And what we're going to do real quick is I'm going to flip over to Marco here so you can see what these
okay,
look like. So Marco, let me know when you're ready and we'll switch to you.
okay. There we go.
Cool. So these are so that big panel that you see on screen is a softbox. And here's the thing. These take up a lot of space and they're
Yeah,
very
they are
complicated
huge.
they're complicated to assemble as well because it's basically like a cover that goes over top of them. So it's basically like there's a housing unit, the light bulbs screw into them. And then there's usually to make the softbox, they have like a piece of metal that comes out of each corner. And then you have to wrap it with basically a cover. And then you put a cover over top of it to help diffuse the light. Now, the problem with this is that then they go on a tripod and it can get really hot depending on the location you're in. They can put out a lot of heat. Obviously, they could potentially cause fire, things like that if you're in the wrong kind of environment. But they're good for certain things, but a lot of people they turn them on. They basically put them together once and they stop using. They don't take them apart at that point. Um, LED lights, though, on the other hand, are like super easy to travel with. They put out like really good quality light. They're somewhat customizable as well. So I would strongly, I think are LED lights good for streaming? I definitely think that you should consider LED lights. And there's different ones that you can use. So that brings me to my next question for you, Marco. What color lights should you use when live streaming, or does it matter?
Well, this is a nice question
Okay.
because, for instance, right now I'm using different lights
Okay.
to different goals. For
Okay.
instance, those in front of me, they are LED. They have also
Mhm.
the RGB colors.
Okay.
Okay, so I can set them to green, purple, whatever. But usually I use them in winter. I like to use them with warmer color,
Okay.
okay, or tone.
Okay.
And in summer, I get a little bit more cold,
Okay.
but almost all the time they are the white colors.
Okay.
Okay, in the background, because I think in the background we can go a little bit more colorful.
Okay.
I like to use, as you can see, the purple color right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think to the front lights you should use this kind of white colors.
Okay.
To the
Yeah.
background you should use the
The colored LED.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, because
Exactly.
they set the mood, and the other ones they just illuminate so you can be seen properly in the camera.
Very cool. Excellent point. Yeah. And here's the thing, I would echo the same sentiment. And so, you know, just like, so when we're doing streaming, a lot of times what people do is they go and they buy, you and I talked about this before. You go and you buy other equipment. Like you basically dance around the solution. So, for example, a lot of times what people will buy if they're going to buy a light to use for their live streams, they'll buy the little small one, a little small ring light, for example. And they're like, well, it doesn't do anything. My face is really dark. Right. And then it's like, and then they start talking about, well, my camera's not good. Right. And that's a lot of times here's the problem that people run into is, that they like we don't buy the right solution at the beginning because as a live streamer, we look at it from a cost perspective. Like, hey, it costs a lot more money to buy the right kind of light versus actually buying, you know, versus just buying any sort of light to get started. And I will say
Yes.
this, I mean, if you're just getting started with live streaming, the first kind of light you should use, natural light. So if you got a window, you don't ever put the window behind you. The window should
Yeah.
always be in front of you. You open the blinds, for
Yes.
example, or you can use the blinds to direct that light certain angles. For example, if you notice that, like, hey, you know what, half your face is very shaded, then you need to make sure you find a light source to fill that. So, you know, so in terms of color and in terms of color of lights, like if you're starting with like, for example, every kind of light I ever buy, I like to buy something that is adjustable. And I don't mean like, oh, I'm going to replace the light bulb with a white bulb versus a yellow bulb.
Yeah.
That is one way to do it. But
Absolutely.
in the age of streaming, I set up a ring light. I have a ring light that I have two knobs. I can adjust the color and I can adjust the brightness. And it doesn't let me do like, and I mean color, I mean white. So pure versus like white versus, or sorry, it's pure. And then there's like, I think an orange or yellowish color. And here's the thing, you're going to want that because depending on who you are, what your room looks like, you want to get the light that can adjust so that it can work with the environment. For example, this wall behind me, as you can see, is a bit of a like a beigey color. And so I need to make sure that, you know, the color is going to change depending on the light, the temperature that I set the light to. So in terms of colors, it's going to partly depend on your environment. It's going to depend on your skin color. It's going to depend on, you know, like for example, if you're very pale, you may need a warmer light to give yourself a certain look. And then to Marco's point, the way he works is he puts the LEDs in front of him and then he puts the colored LED behind him. For example, I've got a few of these here, as you can see here. So I've got a few colored LEDs. Marco's got obviously a lot more, but it helps set the mood as well. And again, all of these that I use, and I know you use them too, Marco, like we make sure they're ones that we can control because
Yeah.
we don't want to get like, we make it easy. That's the key thing. It may cost a little bit more, but you get a lot more flexibility in the long run. So,
Indeed. Yes.
okay. So let's do this, Marco. Let's talk about what you need when using colored light strips. So you've got those colored light strips. What are some things that you either need or you should consider using with those colored light strips?
Okay. The placement where you want to put them.
Okay. And why is this important?
Yes, it's important as well.
Why though? Why is it important?
Okay, because for instance, if you put the light strips in a place that they don't make the effect you want,
Mm-hmm.
it's a waste of money and of time.
Okay.
Okay. Also, how you set them, because at some point you may need to cut them. Okay,
Okay. Yeah.
before.
Okay.
So you can adjust properly. For instance, if you want to put it in a shelf or
Yeah.
behind a TV screen or something, you
Okay.
should know where to cut and how to put the right places
Okay.
and to
Excellent. Yeah.
adjust it. It's some also important.
Okay.
Also, this is important. Where is the the outlet? So you don't have to throw cable away, because this is also important. If there's no wall outlet so you can plug the energy, it will be a problem for you as well. Okay. So, and yes, I think also look what it's in the surroundings. Okay, so you don't create kind of barriers and the light doesn't spread in a, how can I say, uniform way
Okay.
as well.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
it's important. And then put in a way, and I think this is important, don't make your lights a distraction.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
Ra-
So when you're using a colored LED, like colored LED, what do you mean?
when people are more are taking more attention to your lights than to your message,
Okay. Okay.
that like it's creating a noise. Oh, look, that lights, oh my god, they look so, because they flash too much, or
Okay.
they have too much light.
Okay.
Okay, and they are making that background noise, and people, instead of looking and listening to you, they are taking looking at the lights.
Okay.
paying attention
Cool.
to the lights.
And here's the thing I want to add, I like your point there. And one thing I do want to add is that, when you are streaming, pattern interrupt is also an important thing to consider. But pattern interrupt, for example, can come in many forms. It could be us talking here, and then, for example, I'm going to switch to a full screen with Marco. Like it could be something like that because I'm not just
Yeah.
being static on screen with you the whole time, right? So that is one way to do some pattern interrupt. You can bring on a video in the middle of this, a transition, all that sort of stuff. Or, but the one thing going back to your point, I don't want to have these lights, for example, behind me be like, changing like colors. For example, I can actually do that right now. Let me actually make an adjustment here. So I think it's this. Yeah, here we go. So I can change this, right? And as you can see, the lights are changing different colors, I think. So it's red. Let's see what. So this is just a red color that's blinking on and off. Like I don't know. I think that could be distracting to people, right? Or I could
Yeah.
switch to like the rainbow where it goes from green to, different colors. So here's the thing. Let us know, like if you're watching right now at launcher.live/EP106, or if you're listening, let us know at Launcher Live. If if his is distracting or mine is distracting. I've got right now going on a rainbow pattern and Marco's got a solid purple light. So, okay. So I love that point, Marco, about, things that people need to consider. They need to consider that LED, the power strip. They need to consider, where they're going to mount these lights. They need to consider like how they're going to connect them as well, because in a way, this is what people see on camera, but behind the scenes, there's a whole lot more going on. There's cables running all over the place and things like that. And so you want to make sure that, when you put your lights up, it doesn't make it complicated to work in that environment. You also want to make sure your environment is inviting to you. So that way, when you are on screen on your lives, it's not a chore to get to your desk. It's not a chore to go and record. You want to make sure it's as easy as possible for you to live stream. If it's not easy, you're not going to do it. So that's a great point. Okay. So here's what I want to do, Marco. I want to go and I want to talk about, let's see. Let's demo some different lights.
Okay.
And then we're going to talk about some accessories. Okay.
Okay.
So let's see. Let me go do this real quick. So let's talk about. Okay. So I think, and one thing we want to make sure we, mention to you all is that if you're using a camera, so Marco, do me a favor. Let's bring up the Logitech C920, or good old Logitech C920. Let's bring that up because here's the thing. All of the lights that you use on your live streams, they're not just important for lighting you. They are important for also lighting your camera. And so, Marco, you've pulled up the Logitech C920, and this is our trusty Logitech C920. And as you can see, I mean, with this C920, this is a webcam. Plugs into your computer. You have to have enough light to make these things look good. So, Marco, I think you have one of these, right?
Yes, I do.
So can we like show people what it looks like? So like right now, Marco is in a dark environment. Okay.
Okay, just let me.
And Marco's going to pull this up real quick for us. And so he's in a dark environment. And one thing you want to consider with this C920, by the way, if this is your webcam or if you have any other webcam you're using or the built-in one on your laptop, you want to make sure that you give these things enough light because they are super small. I mean, those cameras, the C920s, they're about like, they're about this big. They have a sensor inside this tiny little package, right? And they can only accept, like, if you don't give it enough light, it's not going to look good. If you don't give it enough light, it's going to be pixelated. Your computer has to work harder to use this kind of camera if you don't give it enough light. So, for example, right now I'm using a DSLR. Marco, let me know when you're ready and I'll pull that up.
Okay. I can show you how it looks right now.
Sure. So Marco's going to pull up the C920.
This is the C920.
So here's the C920 right here. Yeah.
And I'm using another webcam to show this webcam. And as you can see, the colors are a little bit messed because I don't have the same amount of control. But let me do just a few adjustments because this was a little bit crazy.
So the thing we want to make sure that that you understand is that if you are using any sort of LED lights, that you have that light, like you have a bright enough light source. Don't get those little clip-on options that clip to your screen. You want to have a bright enough light that light can hit that camera and help give you a good quality picture.
So this is how it looks, the C920.
I got to say, that looks really good when you have enough light.
Yeah.
I mean, you look great. You actually look, I'm going to put it side by side.
Let me try.
You look super sharp in that, but that's because you have that light source close to the C920. So
let me try in real time. I'm going to reduce the brightness of the lights and let's see how the camera reacts.
Yeah, let's do that. So I'm going to put Marco up full screen and he's going to adjust the camera. Okay.
So as you can see, the brightness,
yeah,
it's 1%, and this is how I look.
So here's the thing. Marco actually, I got to say, he looks pretty good he's got some LED lights, on his camera. But as you can see, like it needs light to be able to pick out objects. So like, let's bring that brightness back up. And as you can see, like, look at Marco, like, he looks super sharp here. Like, obviously you're not going to get a lot of like, you're not going to be cutting out the edges of things, but you're using your background, for example, in your streams, combined with your camera with good lighting, and you can produce a very good quality picture with this. What is this? How much are these aren't expensive, right, Marco?
The C920.
Yeah.
It's around, this one, it's $90, but I think you can find cheaper.
Yeah, they're not expensive at all. So, okay. So in terms of cameras, you are going to want to make sure, it doesn't matter. Like, that's just the basic webcam, the base Logitech C920. If you're using the camera in your laptop, again, same thing. Put enough of the lights, LED lights. They put out a lot of light. They don't have a lot of power. They can give you enough light to help those smaller cameras look amazing.
Absolutely.
Okay. So Marco, let's do this. Okay. So obviously the C920, that's super important. Let's do this. Let's stick with the white and the like, do you have any lights you want to talk about real quick?
Well, I have these floodlights, which are the lights I'm using in the background. One,
okay,
it's here. I turned them off.
Okay.
So I can show it.
Yeah, sure. So here, let me put you full screen on that. So is that a controller that's controlling it, or is that, that's the light? Nice.
Yeah, you have the controller here. They come, it's a 2-pack. Okay. You can use them indoor and outdoors. Okay. So for instance, if you want to do something outside, you can use them as well. Okay. The thing, they are really straightforward to use. They come with these remotes, and as far they are two. It's a pack of 2. You will get 2 remotes, so you can use it as a backup. Okay, you have some presets. You can just adjust the brightness. You can use some shuffling options. Okay, and also you can adjust the colors here in this wheel.
Nice.
Okay, also you can use the normal light just by hitting this button. Okay, and this is how I'm bringing this purple light in my background.
Nice.
Really easy to set, and also if you want, you can adjust this. You can fix this wall, in the ceiling, in the floor. It's up to you, but they are a really nice option. I think I made a nice purchase when I bought this.
So
to use my background.
What brand are those?
I'm not sure.
Okay, I think are those the Wixen ones, the Wixen smart LEDs? I think they're the Wixens, actually. So I gotta say, so here's what Marco has. As you can see, let's hold that light back up. Let's put it up to the camera. So as you can see, this light, this looks like a floodlight, but here's the thing: all those little diodes in the middle, those are LEDs.
Yes.
And so as you can see, it's behind a piece of glass. It basically hitting that glass. It's a 40-watt light, and then when you turn it on, you're able to then control the colors. And that one, for example, that's controlled by an app, I think, right?
No, this one, it's with this remote.
A remote. Okay, so that one comes. So yeah, so that one comes with a remote. Awesome. Okay, so very cool, Marco. So that is one option for lights. Now here's the thing: I'd love to have a pair of those in my background because they could actually fill my wall a lot more. Instead, what I'm using these. I've got this, and we're going to talk about this. I'm using the Prisma Strip 32 from Genie. And this is a smart LED. So now this, for example, while Marco has one light that he's using, or he's got a pair, they flood. So basically they almost like cone shaped, right? They put out a lot of light and then they can be controlled because they're LEDs via a remote. I'm using something like this. This is the Prisma 32. This is 32 feet of light, but these are LED strips. I mean, as you can see in the picture here. So these are 32 feet of light. And the way these work is I basically just, like as Marco mentioned, I cut them. So for example, I have a strip, like I have a really long bookshelf running behind me. And so I cut the LED to that strip. And then it has a little power supply that plugs in. It plugs into, I think it plugs into USB actually. And so I do have to plug these in to be able to run them. But then there's a cool thing. So while you were talking about using a remote to control yours, my remote is my smartphone. Yeah. So that's one reason I went with these Prisma 32s, because they connect to my Wi-Fi. It's an LED strip. I can change the color just from the app. And then it also has like a scheduler. So for example, if we were going to do this show every week at a certain time, I could have the lights come on at a certain color and be ready to go. So I have these, the Genie Prismas. Do me a favor, Marco. Let's bring those up. And so while Marco is bringing those up, by the way, so we can show you these, I'll also talk about the extension kit. So this is the Prisma strip. They make a 16-foot one. They make a 32-foot one. You know, again, I was showing you the 32-foot one. They do plug in, they plug into a power outlet. So you do have to have an outlet to use these. They can be controlled via your smartphone. They can be controlled via your voice. So you've got, you know, applications such as you've got like, let's see, it supports, I think it's a Microsoft and Amazon and Google, I think. And so they tie into like your smart systems to be able to work. You can screw them down, or you can just use some 3M tape and stick them to the back of something. The key thing is you could cut them to whatever length you need. So if it were me personally, I would buy the 32-foot version of this, because here's why. If you only need like 16 feet, you basically get 16 additional feet. And then what's cool about them is that you can do this. So Marco, let's do this. I'm going to show the extension kit as well. So there's the 32-foot kit. And then there is an extension kit if you're somebody who happens to need additional lights. So this is the extension kit. And so the way these work is, let me zoom in on this. So basically it's this. You cut the lights wherever you need them, and then you add an extension to the middle of them if you need more, for example, or say you only have a couple of pieces left and you need to combine the same brand, you use that. So this is why I use, for example, a lot of these same brands, is because it makes everything work together. And it's super simple to use. So this is the extension kit that we were talking about here. So there's the strip, there's a strip. And then the other cool thing about these, by the way, they aren't just colored LED. So they're not like, oh, I can have, you know, RGB and have blue and red and green and purple and whatever color I want. They also have a white setting as well. So you can adjust whether you want a warm white or a cool white look. And you can also dim these things as well. So again, and none of that is done via any physical product. I need just to put the LED lights up, and then I can control them via my mobile app. So it's pretty cool. So, okay, so that's some of the options.
If you don't mind, I have a
Yeah.
question in my side, and I think it's a nice question from Tommy.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So, Tommy, thank you so much for stopping by. And the question is, greetings, Chris and Marco. If a streamer can do it, is natural light better than LED artificial lights? So doing your stream near windows or outside may have a better effect? Yes and no. Because one of the things about natural light is that you can't control it. Okay?
Yeah, right.
Sun passes by, there's clouds or not, or suddenly you're doing a live show with natural lights and some clouds, the weather changes, okay, and you can't control that. And I think it's too risky.
Okay.
With artificial lights like LEDs, you can have this control.
Yeah.
Okay, you're the master of the lights, And I think it's better for live streaming. Of course, for instance, for photograph, having these natural lights, you can play around. But the difference is a live streaming. It's something that you do which may last half an hour, 1 hour. A
Yeah,
photograph, you can take the shot in 10 seconds and it's done. We don't have the same possibility here, so that's
okay.
what you should consider.
Yes,
Natural light you can't control, artificial light you can control, and I think when we talk about live streaming, it's this safetiness that we want as well, and the power to control lights. It's uh, something that will ease your process.
absolutely. And that's a great question, by the way. So the question was natural light. Like, should you use natural light? And the answer is like, yes, you should if it's available, but you can't control it. And this is a big reason why when people do streaming or any sort of movie or TV production, video recording, they record in an environment that they can control. It's what, so for example, it's like, for example, when people go and they film something outside, you can't control the wind, you can't control the car passing by, the person yelling something out. Like, it's kind of like why, if, for example, if you've ever been to a movie set, you'll have them say things like quiet on the set, because it's not because they don't want that background noise. They have a certain shot they're trying to get. And so they're trying to, like, they can control a lot of that for the most part. It's why, like, they don't just block it off like in one little spot. They block a whole bunch of it off so that people can't come in and interfere with it. And so in terms of lighting, excellent point, or excellent question and point.
Yes, absolutely.
You could try it, but the problem is, if here's the thing, you're going to notice, okay, well, I can go live for 1 hour, but I don't know if it's going to be cloudy that day. And that could impact your like quality of your stream. For example, if it's really cloudy and I get if I get the light where it only fills part of my face, it might not make a good quality recording or video or things like that you're making. So you should always try and be in a studio where you can control all of the different lighting elements. So
Absolutely.
excellent question. Okay. So Marco, the other thing I want to talk about lighting wise, I want to talk about these. So you and I have, we've got the Gusador LED lights here in the carousel. But this is another form of LED lights, right? I mean, these are similar to the Genie ones that I showed you earlier. As you can see, they look very similar, right? And all these little nodes here, they basically can change color. But here's what's important to mention here. So the way these work is this. So you have these lights, for example, and they basically plug in with a plug like this, something like this, and they're going to plug in here. And then once you do this, you're going to end up having, you're going to plug it in just like this. And then some of these, they have a USB plug. Some of them have a power plug. So you got to keep that in mind in terms of the lights. And if you look here, by the way, look at this. There's not a whole lot of LED lights in this package here. It's not a whole lot at all. It's very small. So you do have to keep that in mind if you're going to go with some of the more inexpensive brands. Like, they all function roughly the same, but you got to consider like the power source, and then you got to see like, well, can I combine these together? And then the other thing I think that's also super important, is how you're controlling these. So for example, as you can see in that picture, you got a remote control, a physical remote control, and this one does have a mobile app. So
Yes.
you got to see if it's actually any good, though. That's the trick. So, make sure if you're going to get any sort of LED lights, like an off-brand light, is the quality going to be good? Like, we're not talking about you got to take into consideration all these other things. You got to take into consideration, for example, if they only sell a 10-foot strip and you need 30 feet, can you combine them together? The other thing is, are you going to have multiple remotes, as Marco was talking about there? Do you work better with a smartphone as opposed to a physical remote, for example?
Yes.
What do you work better with? If you've got it, for example, if you've got multiple types of LED lights, multiple brands, and you got like 5 of these remotes to use, you got to go pick up all these different remotes and make sure you got the right one, make sure you can get to the sensor. A lot of stuff to consider, right?
Yeah.
And we also want to make sure we get quality ones. So So that's one brand you can consider looking at. Let's do this. Let's bring up that Govee Glide though, real quick, Marco. So while Marco's talking about, he's using those the Wixen ones that can really fill his background, there is another one you can consider, and these are RGB light tubes. Now, these are also, as you can see, they have this little L-shaped bracket here, and what's cool about it is you could basically combine these together. So you can create different scenes with these. This is kind of cool. You could actually frame out what you wanted to, like if you wanted to light a wall, you could buy a whole bunch of these and just put them all around your room. They're actually pretty neat if you can see there. I mean, look at this. So I think the key takeaway though here is that you want to make sure they fit with your environment. Like I like that these, have that additional little arm. They can be somewhat creative, but the question is like, is that the look you're going for on your live streams? So if that's not, I would personally recommend like the Wixen ones that Marco had, because he can control that and he can keep the lights out of the shot. So, so this is one option you could consider going with. I do want to make sure we do take some time to also look at some of the questions that we get from our viewers and our listeners. And one of those is from our friend NLTMW. They said some of the LED lights are using a simple USB power, often not included. That is a very good point. We'll get to that in a second. And they may not be bright enough for use in video. And you're absolutely right. For example, I've got LED lights here in the back, and it's just one long strip, and they add a certain element, but they don't fill my wall, for example. And that's partly because I also then have much brighter lights in front of me. So you do have to consider all of those things. And we're going to talk about it in a second. A simple solution for you to be able to power all of these different lights. Okay, Marco, so we talked about those. Now let's do this. Let's talk about another really good option. And you and I mean, you know what? Before we do that, let's pull up the Corsair Elgato LED lights. And so the reason I want to pull these up is, when you're thinking about, what LED lights you should be buying. So these are the Corsair Elgato LED light strips. By the way, if you want to check out anything that we're talking about, all you have to do is go to launchyour.live/LED, and you'll be able to check out all of these products that we've been featuring, whether they're, the basic LED lights, the Elgato panels, the Wisen ones that Marco was showing as well. But so these are LED lights, and they are much more expensive than the other ones you're paying for. And Marco, why do you think these are more expensive?
Well, I think one of the main, I have at least 3 reasons. One, it's because it's an Elgato. And
yeah,
like we like to say
the
here
name
in
brand.
Portugal,
Okay.
You pay for the brand as well.
Okay. Yeah, very true.
Another good, and this is a good thing, is that Elgato allows you to sync different devices so you can use them together. For instance, I'm pretty sure that you can use this with the Stream Deck and control the LED lights through the Stream Deck.
We're going to get to that in a second. Yes.
And also because they probably are really good. Yes. And you have to pay for this as well. Okay. Because if you want quality things, you need to pay for that. I think it's really hard to get free launches.
I think that is an excellent point, by the way. You talk about how like these are like, you talk about how you basically get what you pay for in a way. And the Corsair Elgato LED lights, the thing I really like about them, for starters, they have 2000 lumens, which basically is the brightness. They can do all the different colors. So here's what you basically will see. You'll see that a lot of times LED lights, they can do, some of them just do warm and cold white light. Other ones do, 16 million colors. They can change color, things like that. But what this one offers that I think is a better package is, even though they're more expensive, they can pair with things like the Stream Deck and things like that we're going to talk about in a minute. So when you look at them on the surface, okay, yeah, I pay a little bit more. Well, then why am I paying more when I can go buy, like, for example, I go buy 4 sets of those cheap LEDs. And what I'm paying for is convenience as well. So these are the Corsair LED lights in terms of how much brightness they put off. Like I said, I'm using the Genie brand ones, and I like the fact that they can be controlled by an app. But if I'm using a Stream Deck, that is something that I'm going to consider using instead. I need to think about the big picture as a streamer versus, hey, I bought this light, I bought that light, and then but my ultimate goal is I want to get to that unified set of lights. I want to make sure that I'm thinking about that and buying the ones that are going to work together, I think. So, excellent point there. So, we talked about those Elgato Corsair LED lights. By the way, Corsair owns Elgato. So, what I want to do is let's talk about the Elgato key light, Marco. And I'm going to show you guys this. So this is the Elgato key light. And I have these, I've currently got a ring light on. I'll turn the Elgato key lights on. But this is the Elgato key light. Here's the cool thing about these. These are LEDs. Look at how small and thin this panel is. It's super small, right? But the thing you got to consider when you get something like this, they cost a lot more money, a whole lot more money. But they are essentially a powered LED panel. They can only do white or like the yellowish color light, yellow, orange. They basically can go from cool blue all the way to like an orange. So I'm not going to be able to do colored LED lights, but I can get a really good bright light. And here's how good these things are. So, Marco, I'm going to power these on. I'm going to leave my key light. I'm going to leave my ring light that I have on right now, but I'm going to power these on. And they're on. And I have two of them. And I want to tell you this. So the cool thing about this is why, we talk about paying for convenience. I turn them on via my Stream Deck. I have these turned on. This is the brightness of, let's see what this is set to. It's not very much. Actually, this is set to 12%.
Okay.
So they're 12% right now. So as you can see, I got a lot of light. I got plenty of light in my environment. But what's great about this, these are the Elgato ones. I can change the color temperature, for example. I could change this directly from the app. So right now I have it about set in the middle. So what I'm at 4,700 Kelvin, I'm going to put them at about 6,000. And so as you might not, I don't know if you can see the difference, but basically that's the cool blue color. And then I can go all the way to the other side. For example, I go all the way to the other side. And that's like an orange color. So, yeah. And so you mentioned this earlier, Marco. You mentioned, about setting like the mood of your stream or of the video you're recording. And so like the great thing about this is that, like I said, or like you've said, these are ones that we can control a lot better. So that is definitely something you want to consider. Like, and by the way, I'm going to turn these off. They're really bright. So yeah. But as you can see, they do help your camera. So you do get what you pay for when you buy these. And by the way, I do want to make sure we mention this. There are two models. This is the Elgato key light. That is what I'm showing you all with this panel. But this one also comes with what is called the master mount.
The master mount, yes.
And it basically clamps to your desk and it holds these lights, and then you just plug them into a power outlet. And then you control the lights. Like I don't ever have to touch the lights. I can control them via the Elgato Control Center app that they give you with this. Now, what's cool about it also about these lights is that you can rotate them as well. So let me actually demo that real quick. So these are the lights, and most of the time they're going to be like this. However, if you look on the sides, there's little like screw holes here, right here, on every single side. So you can rotate them this way, you can mount them this way, you can angle them, you can do whatever you need to do with the Elgato key light. There's also the Air model as well, right, Marco?
Yes.
And so here's the thing. They make the Elgato key light. These are much brighter, but they also make the Air model. Let me know when I can bring that one up, Marco.
Yeah, you can.
So these are this is the key light Air. And the real difference here is, for starters, you may only need one of these to light your scene. And you could put them in different angles. Like, for example, I want to light behind me. I could put one in the corner and fill the wall, for example. This one, though, what's nice about these, they sit on your desk. And so, you can put them on your desk. They're smaller and they're not going to put out as much light, but they're still both high quality. So you can't go wrong with either of those products, the Elgato Key Light or the Key Light Air. As I mentioned, they could do a lot of different things. So the last two things I want to make sure we talk about, Marco, I'm going to talk about the Stream Deck. So do you have a Stream Deck? I think you do, right?
Yes, I do.
So why do you have a Stream Deck? What does it do?
Well, in my case, I can change scenes from one scene to another using the Stream Deck just by doing this with a button.
Cool. Yeah.
This is one of the features. The other one, I use it to bring some sound effects. Okay. Because sometimes I want to, when someone arrives to the live show or I have a new follower, I just hit that button. And also to bring some different and entertaining sounds to the live stream. I like to use this as well. Also, I use this sometimes to trigger a tweet. So for instance, I'm live, I hit a key and then he sends a tweet. Also, you can use it to when you're video editing. Also, you can use this with StreamYard because
you can
hotkeys.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can use it for a lot of things. And I love that you mentioned this. I mean, you're mentioning all the stuff that you can do outside of just making videos, the things to promote them and whatnot. And
one of the things about Stream Deck is that it ignites your creativity. Okay. Because you find a new feature and you have to find a way to use it. This is something interesting about the Stream Deck.
Yeah, it's a great product. And as you mentioned, I mean, it's not just for controlling. Like if you buy, this is why we talk about buying into the ecosystem. So when you're buying LED lights, if you buy into the Elgato ecosystem, you get the ability to easily control that with the Stream Deck. Do you have a Stream Deck that we can pull up and show or?
Yes. Let me just check the camera angle.
So Marco is going to pull up he's going to pull up one of the Elgato Stream Decks.
So there you go.
Let's do this. So here's Marco. So he's got the 15 button one. I have the 15 button one as well. I'm using it and I'm using the 32 button option as well. And so
this is the scene deck. Okay. This is the kind of the main menu right here. And I can change from one menu to another. Okay. For instance, here I have 2 pages. So instead of needing, because this deck, it's the sound effects and I have more than 15. Okay. So instead of going back and forth, I can just add another page and then I can add another deck of buttons. And I just need to press this key and there you go. If I want to get back, I just go here and that's it. This is something, it saves us lots of time, because we don't need to be, for instance, I don't need to be looking to OBS because I'm using OBS as my virtual camera. I don't need to see, where I need to change the scene or something. Okay. It's easier because I just need to hit the button. And also, as I mentioned, this could help you to improve at least the entertaining side of your broadcast, because this is important as well. Okay. Because if you can bring that entertainment spice to your broadcast, this will be a plus for you.
Excellent. No, that's an excellent point. Yeah. And so while Marco's got that Stream Deck, I've got the 32 button one here. And by the way, the main differences here, by the way, I mean, really are that you may think you don't need this, but I have the 15 button one and it's full. And I got the 32 button one that I use for other things. The other cool thing about this, by the way, is that you can use these, as Marco mentioned, for controlling your lights. So if you buy into the Elgato brand, you can use this right out the box with all of the Elgato products, i.e. your Elgato key lights. You can use it with the Corsair LED lights. And you can control all of it without really having to, fiddle with your phone and all that other stuff. The other cool thing about these is that you can use the Stream Decks. You can use multiple ones at the same time. For example, I'm running 2 of them at the same time. And, and the great thing is, and they do come with a stand. So it does make it easy for you overall to be able to use them. So yeah, so that is the Elgato Stream Deck. And let's do this, Marco. Let's bring it up on screen so I can show people that just on Amazon so they can see what it looks like. Because there are different models. So this is, as Marco was talking about, there's the 15 button one that he has, and then there's also the 32 button one as well. Really, I think if it were me, I would get the 32 button one if my budget allowed it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and I think
at the end of the day, the 15 key, it's it's too small.
It is. Well, they actually make a smaller one as well. They make one that's like 6 buttons.
Yeah.
Yes. But they're both really good. And when you put them in terms of like LED lights, if you're thinking about building a system, I would personally buy into one ecosystem. If I'm all Elgato and I want customization, but I want flexibility, I'd buy the Stream Deck, I would buy the key lights, and I'd buy the Corsair LED lights. Yes, they may cost a little bit more money, but just think about how easy it's going to be to set up for your live stream. You push a button and all those things come up. So the last thing I want to talk about real quick, Marco, before we wrap, is I want to talk about how to power all of this. And you kind of alluded to this earlier, right?
Yes.
So let's talk about, so we're talking about like accessories. Obviously we talked about getting the Stream Deck. The other thing you need to make sure you consider getting is something like this. This is the Genie Surge and Charge. And so you'll kind of see, well, hey, Christian, you're using Genie Surge and Charge, the Genie LED lights, for example. And the reason I'm doing that is because they all tie into their app that they have. So, for example, this ties into an app. And as you can see, I mean, you get regular power, and then you get a couple of USB-A ports here as well. And then what's cool about it is they actually can then be powered via your smartphone. So I just launched the Genie app, and then I can either talk to it, or I can just simply push the button and turn them on and off, like turn the outlet on and off that I need. Marco, why is all this stuff important? Well, we're talking LED lights.
To save time, to be sure that we have the right power in the right place, okay? Because sometimes we don't have the outlet in the wall close to the place where we want to use the LED lights as well. And this is important because I don't see that we should kind of make some holes in the wall in order to put there some other outlets, okay? And also this is something interesting because it has these USB plugs, and sometimes not all the LED lights work with the normal plug. They work with USB, and so with that you can use this hybrid system, which will be really useful.
And that's a great point, by the way. And I think that's even the same point that our viewer NLTMW mentioned. He said that some of the LED lights are using a simple USB power, often not included. They may not be bright enough for use in video, but hey, you can still use them. And as a result, you may need something like this, the Genie Surge and Charge. And in this case, this is it's got 4 outlets. The other thing I think I really like is that if you go up towards that top part, Marco, where that one solo plug is, you'll notice there's a big gap. And that gap is actually helpful because not only can you control this via your smartphone, but that gap is important because when you're plugging in certain outlets, you need additional space at times. Yes. And so it's nice that everything's not like all uniform because it gives you flexibility. So, and then the great thing is going back to what you talked about low power. These are also low power because you can turn them on and off. You can turn off the outlets you don't need so that it's only using certain ones. So this is, so in terms of like, just a quick recap, the best LED lights to get for your live streams, my answer is going to be, I think I would say this: start with natural light. Don't buy lights at the beginning just because they're not within your, they're within your budget. Like you don't have to go buy other like if you got lamps lying around, you can easily just pull in some lamps and light your scene. and work with what you have. However, if you know long term, hey, you know what? If you make a lot of videos, invest in a high quality setup of lights. And there's lots of different ones out there. But personally, I mean, you and I talked about it. The Elgato key lights, I think, in my opinion, are like some of the top ones to check out in terms of just how easy they are to get set up with, and then how easy they are to control. Is there anything you want to add, Marco, in terms of LED lights for live streams?
Well, I think this is something really important, the lights in your broadcast. Okay, so it will reflect as well how committed you are with your content. Okay, so that's why this is something that I like to improve and to work on, the lights, and have this in mind. And I can share a lesson I've learned. I bought these 2 soft boxes, and even though they made a pretty nice job, the thing is that they take much room in my office, and now I have them here sparing some space. So I think by these days you will find amazing LED options in a really nice price range as well, and try to avoid soft boxes because you don't have the same amount of control over them, and also the same possibilities, and they take so much room in your office or studio, which is crazy. So I think you should invest in good lights, and you don't need to break a bank for that.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great point, Marco, to end on. When picking LED lights, like, don't just, like, you and I talk about this all the time. Work with what you've got. You don't need, for example, you don't need the most expensive ones, but lights, for example, are going to be something that you're not going to replace. You should not replace very often. Like, I'm not going to be buying a new pair of lights every single month.
Yeah.
A camera, I might replace a camera every year or every, depending on how fast technology is changing. But lights are going to be one of those things that you're not necessarily going to replace very often. So again, start with what you have. Use that natural light. Don't rely on the natural light though as your sole light source. Use something you can control. So something that puts out enough light that you can also grow with it. Don't just buy those little clip-on like ring lights that a lot of people buy and expect them to produce amazing results. They're not going to do it. So with that, I want to thank everybody for tuning in to episode 106 of the Launch Your Live show. If you want to check out any of the items that we talked about, just go to launchyour.live/LED. And, with that, I want to wish everybody, hope you had a happy holiday or have a happy holiday. But again, go check those out. Just one quick reminder, if you have questions about like lighting for your live streams, go check out episode 10. And that was at launcher.live/EP10, where we talked about 7 tips for the best live stream lighting. And then a couple other useful resources for you. We talked about some ways you can light your live streams, launcher.live/EP83. And then, as I mentioned, just go to launcher.live/LED if you want to check out the LEDs that we talked about. But I do have one question for you, and that's for you, to answer. And that's, what type of LED lights do you prefer? What are you currently using? Are you using, a pure light, a white light, a blue light, orange, just like yellow light? Like, what colors are you using? Or are you using LED lights to light your streams? Do us a favor, just go to @LauncherLive and check those out, and just send us a message. Just say, hey, you know what? This is what I'm currently using. We want to hear from you. But again, check out all the items, launcher.live/LED. With that, we'll see you all on a future episode. Thanks a lot.